and welcome to Making the Best of It! Today, it's a little bit dreary outside here, and so I thought, what better way to brighten things up a little bit than to play with some light? So today what we're going to be doing is using paper cutouts to figure out how to tell stories using shadows and light.
Ooh.
It is going to be really fun, and I can't wait to show you what we're going to do next. Now, in order to make our shadow stories, we're going to need a couple things. The first thing is paper. I'm using normal printer paper, and you can really use whatever you have on hand. Lined paper might be a little bit thin, but I think it should work all right. If you have thicker paper, like I have this watercolor paper, this is going to block a little bit more light, and it might work a little better. But for this demonstration, I'm just using normal paper. Next, you're going to need some scissors. Again, you can do it without the scissors if you want. You can just tear the paper, but you are going to get nicer cuts with the scissors. Something to write or draw with is always helpful. And then you're going to need a flashlight and a dark place. All right? Next, we are going to need a story, and we're going to have to come up with some characters. So the story that I've decided I want to tell is a story of a dinosaur, and he's really misunderstood. Everyone thinks that he's there to like hurt the town. He's like this really big, like giant character, and he's like knocking over houses. But really, he's just lost and trying to find his family. So I'm going to need a couple of things for that, and I'm going to go ahead and write those down so we can all see them. So I'm going to need my giant dinosaur, and then I'm going to need some buildings, and I'll probably want a few of those. And I am going to need a friend for the dinosaur to meet. I'm going to have the friend be a bear. And then I need the dinosaur family so that my dinosaur can meet up with them at the end. Okay, so now that I have my list of characters and I know what my story is going to be, I need to start drawing them. Now, I always tell people, I'm an engineer. Drawing is not the thing that I'm best at, because I haven't put a lot of time and energy into that. I can write really good instructions or technical drawings and things like that, but creative drawings are hard. So be kind to yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect, and the important thing is we have to remember that we're going to be shining light through this. So the places where light comes through are the places we want to cut. Alright, so once you've gotten your list of things you're going to make, we are going to start with the easiest one. In this case, I've marked buildings number 1 because I think drawing buildings is going to be the easiest for me, so it's a good thing to practice. So I'm going to start with a simple house. Okay, so we've all probably drawn something like this. We've got the triangle roof, and then we have the box of the house. And then on the bottom of everything I draw, I'm going to add an extra little square with a line down the middle. And this is going to be what's going to let our house stand up. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all the way along the edges of this. I don't want to cut the roof off, so you can draw that line in there, but you don't want to cut along it. We are going to cut along those edges. And then, right there, on that line I drew in the middle of that extra box on the bottom, I'm going to cut up. And I'm going to fold one leg backwards, like that, and the other leg forward, and that is going to be the stand, so that this can stand up on its own. Alright, so now we have our design, and what we want to do is you can test this just on the table in front of you if you get a flashlight, and you can see that that looks like a house, which is very cool. So I have my first building created, and when we do this, we're going to have this kind of going onto a wall in front of us instead of onto a table, so that's why we have the stand. Okay, so thing 1 has been made. Now I am going to make another building. This one I want to be kind of like a skyscraper. how this is going to go. And I'm going to fold those legs opposite of each other to make my stand. And, uh-oh, you might notice that some of your things have a little trouble standing up. And if that's the case, you can always take another, like a toothpick or a popsicle stick, and just kind of tape it to the back, and that will help it stand up. But really, the smaller you can make these, the easier it's going to be for it to not fall over. So now let's test this one out. We'll shine a light, and that definitely looks like a building to me. I think that looks great. So now I have 2 buildings, so I'm happy with my 2 buildings. And so now it is time for the bear. So the bear is going to be number 2. Because I think I can draw a bear better than I can draw a dinosaur. Okay, so now here's the tricky part for this one. This space between my teddy bear's legs, I want to cut out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of fold it a little bit right here, and then I can cut. So that way I can get it started and cut out just the inside. Because I want the light to be able to pass through there. Because I think that will look cool. Alright, so now I have my teddy bear all cut out. Oh, I forgot. I'm not going to want to cut all the way up this, just most of the way. And that will let us make our stand. Alright, so now my teddy bear has a stand. Let's test this out. So if I shine a light, look at that! I have a shadow of my bear. Next up, we are going to be doing our dinosaur, and I'm going to use that same sheet of paper, try to save some paper. Okay, he stands, and then dinosaur, check that out. That's not bad. Alright, so last thing we need is our dinosaur family. Now this one's going to be probably the hardest one. So what I'm going to draw is, actually I'm not going to draw the whole dinosaur family. I'm just going to draw kind of like a group of dinosaur heads. See how it looks with a shadow? Hey, look at my 3 dino family friends. Alright, so you can totally do your story like this. You can use just the paper with scissors, but if you want, you can use an X-Acto knife to cut out some more details. Now this is something you should only do if you have adult supervision. This is a utility knife rather than an X-Acto knife, but it's going to work pretty well, and I don't have a good cutting surface, so I'm just going to use this spare piece of wood that I have. If you have a cutting mat, that is going to work best. But remember, you should only be doing this if you have adult supervision and adult permission. Okay, so let's go back to my house. This is a pretty cool house, but I think if it had a door and windows, it might be cooler. So what I'm going to do is on here, I'm going to draw my door, and I'm going to use my utility knife to extremely carefully, keeping my hands out of the way, cut along these lines make sure you don't get too close to where you cut there, otherwise you'll end up making your house not attached to its stand. Okay. And when you're not using this, you want to make sure you close it if you can. So now, my house has a door. So let's see what that shadow looks like now. Ta-da! Look, it's got a little door on there, which is pretty cool. Sasha thinks it's cool. So you can do that with all of your designs. So for example, excuse me, if you wanted to add an eye, onto your dinosaur, remember, it doesn't quite work like normal drawing. So I'm going to actually do an X. Excuse me. So I'm going to cut an X here. Very carefully, keeping my fingers out of the way. Cut this X. And some of these things you might even be able to do with scissors if you're careful. And then I'm going to take my pen and very carefully push through and fold back these little triangles that got made. And it pays to be careful and slow here. Alright, so now I have a hole for my dinosaur's eye, and if I look and I project this again with the light, I can see that my dinosaur has an eye now. Okay? Does that look cool? So go ahead, add as much detail as you want, make whichever characters you want to make, and next up I'll show you how you can make it into a really cool story. So I'm in my basement, and this is the floor of my laundry room. It's nice and dark down here and perfect for casting shadows. So I have my flashlight pointed at one of my figures, and it's casting a really neat shadow. To make something bigger, you can move the light closer. And to make something smaller, you can move the light further away. And if you want to make something walk, you can slide the light to either side, and that will make them look like they're walking across your screen. Little Dino was far from home and feeling a little scared. But Little Dino was far from very little, and so when he was walking, he accidentally knocked over a building. All the townspeople were running and screaming, but lucky thing, Cuddly Bear was there to save the day. Cuddly Bear was small and mighty, and they walked right up to Little Dino. They weren't afraid just because he was big. They talked and talked, and Little Bear realized that Little Dino was scared inside. And as they talked, it felt like Little Dino was getting smaller. Cuddly Bear figured out that Little Dino was really just lost. Little Dino was scared without his family. But Cuddly Bear remembered that she'd just seen a couple other dinos down the road. So Cuddly Bear helped Little Dino find the family that he was missing, and everyone lived happily ever after.